Swimming is actually like flying. You are flying in the water.
Hey, it's Puneet Surana, and this is the bonus series of the Galata podcast. We'll get to it in a second, but first, here's a message from our presenting sponsor.
In association with Sirona Hygiene, an award-winning startup which solves unaddressed feminine hygiene issues. With their unique products like Sirona Herbal Period Pain Relief Patches, Natural Anti-Chapping Cream, Sirona Menstrual Cups and many more. They are best known for their flagship product, PeeBuddy, India's first female urination device using which women can stand and pee in all dirty and unfriendly toilets. Visit them on www.thesirona.com.
Joining us today is somebody who started swimming at the age of 2 and never really left the pool. She's been swimming ever since, and it so happened that during her childhood, she would also cycle her way to the pool and back. She started running mini marathons in her high school. By her 7th standard, she was already a national swimmer. All of this is just the start. But what got me to get her on the show and to all of you is that she is India's only woman to have represented India in the World Triathlon Games. She's a triathlete and she's won over 126 medals. And if all of this isn't enough, she is also a CA. So we're going to get into the conversation and dig in. But before that, let me introduce you to somebody who calls herself a Lambi Race Ki Ghodi. And her mission really is about try. Boys and girls, Galata gang, join me in welcoming Pragnyamohan.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I'm really taken aback.
The usual first question that I ask Pragnya to all my guests, which I've already revealed to you, is what were the conversations around the dinner table when you're growing up?
As a family, we always had this policy that all 4 of us will sit on the dinner table together, irrespective, and we did not see TV. At that time, we didn't have phones really. So it was only 4 of us, and we would discuss what all we did during the day. Like, I have an elder brother who's 2 years elder to me, my father, my mother, and me. So 4 of us and the food, obviously. So we used to discuss a lot of different things, like what went on with all of us lives during the day. My mom is a housewife. My father used to work, and both of us were in school. So we had very interesting stories, different kind of stories. And since I was always into sports, I used to have my swimming practice in the morning. And my brother happens to be a national chess player. He used to have his trainings. It used to be nice. And then my father used to tell us stories about his working place. My mom used to tell us what went wrong in the house. So it was pretty good, the normal discussions, but it was like our dinner would go up to 1.5 hours.
Wow.
We would be talking, discussing, and that was fun.
Family.
Yeah, we are.
How did you get into swimming at the age of 2? I mean, was it just like another activity you were put into?
I really don't recall, but there are memories that my parents share at time. They were teaching swimming to my brother. So we used to live in the society which had a 17-meter pool. Mm-hmm. Okay. So my father himself, he's not a great swimmer, though both my father and mother know basic swimming. And they used to take me to the pool as well. So my brother was probably 4 years old. And they used to put floaters around my arms so that I don't sink. And there were stairs which led to the main swimming pool. So they left me on the stairs. So one day they suddenly noticed that I was just trying to mimic what they were teaching my brother. And my brother was struggling at it. And I was pretty natural. And they noticed that I loved being in the water. Even when they all were going out, they had to push me out. Like, come on, we need to go home and stuff like that. So I think it was my parents also who saw that, I had this inclination towards water. And after that, my school used to introduce swimming as a course when we were in 2nd standard. Until then, I was swimming like normally in that 17-meter pool that we had in our society. Post that, I got a swimming teacher. Her name was Gitanjali. What she did was, she used to make us sit on her back and go around the pool. And like a crocodile. Yeah, she used to become the crocodile and we used to, climb up, and she used to give us the round of the pool. And I think that I really liked, and she was one of the prime movers to get me into swimming, the different strokes and everything. And once my parents also realized this inclination towards swimming. They put me in a swimming pool, which was a 50-meter Olympic-sized swimming pool, where we had a coach, which was appointed by the government for inculcating sports and everything. I used to go there in the afternoon to learn everything. And when my parents took this decision, a lot of people told them that sending a small girl alone with a cab driver every day is not really safe. But they did it, and I kind of enjoyed it. And I also remember there were times in my childhood when I was growing, when I was in the second, third standard, and my friends used to go out to play in the garden. And I used to go to the swimming pool at the same time. And they used to say that, you're not coming to play. And, I was sort of socially boycotted also at times, because they used to think that I'm because they used to think that not giving them the time and instead going to swimming. But I think I really enjoyed being in water. Just the feeling of being in the water sort of, fascinated me. And that is something I used to look forward to even when I was a child.
I can hear it in your voice.
Yeah, I still love swimming. Like, being in the water is like heaven for me.
What does it feel like?
While I was swimming one day in my practice, this must be around 2008, 2009, suddenly there was a realization that swimming is actually like flying. You are flying in the water because you're not touching the ground. And that thought really fascinated me to another level. I don't know why. And till date, like whenever I am in the pool or even in some open water, I just feel like flying. I'm a bird. That is really motivating. And it's like, I don't know, it's like a child in me. But yeah, that makes me love the sport much more.
But at the time you were 9 or 10, you started competing in mini marathons?
In my school, they introduced this 5-kilometer run for girls and 7 kilometers for boys. Somehow my brother got interested in it. And he came home like saying that there's this 7-kilometer run, asking my dad to help him train for it. Like, it was still a month later. And he was always into mental sports. Like, he was a chess player.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, he was, at a very young age, he became the state champion. Under 17 state champion, he became when he was 9 years old. So he was always on the mental and the academic oriented guy. So when he came up with this and we were discussing this over the dinner table, as you call it, I was like, I am the physical one. And he's the, like, intellectual. Yeah. And then I was like, if he can do it, so can I. So I was like, okay, there's 5 kilometers for girls as well, so I'll do that. Even I can run the 5 kilometers. So the day he started training, he was more enthusiastic than I was, but I was competing with him. This was the sibling rivalry going on. So he started training and I started training, and it just happened that we trained for a month, not really intensive, not very regular, like twice, thrice a week. We used to go to this ground and run. My father would monitor what we were doing, sort of thing, just building the endurance. And I used to swim daily, so I had that endurance and stamina already. And he was struggling to get that, but he was always he had that speed, which I didn't in running. I don't know, maybe because of being a girl and a boy. So when the day of the mini marathon came, both of us came second in our respective. And this was a whole school, like up till 12th standard. It wasn't just... I was in my 5th standard. And I came second, and he also came second. So that was a confidence booster. Then in 6th standard, I practiced for it for like almost 1.5 months.
So it became a thing. You got to get the first one.
Yes. And then I did get the first one. So then the distances started increasing. Like in 6th standard, they, I think, had 5 kilometers. And then in 7th, they increased it to 6 kilometers. And then in 8th standard onwards, I shifted to Ahmedabad. So we had started having this local race that was 8 kilometers long. So I started running that, and in the process, I realized that I started enjoying running. So it became a second sport. Swimming was always the priority, but running became a second sport, which I used to like doing, like the feeling of running. And
what does running feel like? Because a lot of runners in Bangalore who are listening to this right now.
Running is just different. Like, the feeling is not much different as compared to swimming. But when you run, when you are at very intensive paces, you just can't think. You just can't think. It's like when people say that in meditation, you just have to have one thought. I think when you run intensive and you just can't think of anything but running. It is meditation in its own terms. So I think that is what I love about it. And running as an exercise, it's an entire body exercise. the entire body, you're actually flying. You are actually flying. There is a moment in every step that you take that both the feet are off the ground.
Yeah.
It's not like walking. Like in walking, you always have one foot in the ground. But running is flying. In every step that you take, you are jumping. So there's a moment when both the feet are off the ground. Somehow, I am fascinated with flying.
Yes. Very evident. And I like it. I love the expressions you have in your eyes and the voice. I know listeners can feel this right now. Wow. So that was your first recognition, first trophy at the age of...
For running, yes. Yeah. For swimming, I had already got pretty in the school, at the school level, and I'd started emerging as a state level swimmer. I started at the lower end of the podium and gradually climbed it to the top. So yeah, I started getting bronze, silver medal in the state championship. I think I got my first gold in 7th standard, not before that.
What happened after 8th, 9th standard?
So in 2013, there was this Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation had organized a cyclothlon. So this was the time when Modi ji was preparing for his PM rally. So there were a lot of events that were happening in Gujarat, especially Ahmedabad. There was this 50-kilometer race in that. So just out of curiosity, I registered for it and maybe I practiced. Like I remember I practiced 1 week before because I was not sure if I could do a 50-kilometer cycling. It looks too big. So 1 week before the race, just for my mental satisfaction, I was like, I need to do it. So I did it. And there was a lot of... on my own, and there was a lot of discomforts which I felt because 50 kilometers, it almost took me 2 hours to complete that 50-kilometer stretch. So my cycle was the normal cycle that we have.
The ladybird kind of cycle.
Not really. I upgraded it to a BSA Mac, but that's a very basic cycle when now I look back and realize I completed that and I got this confidence that okay, khatam to ho jayega. When the race day came, I was not expecting anything as such, but I was just doing it because I wanted to do it, and I finished the race. I came to know that I came first in my 50 kilometers category, and to top it all, I got 1 lakh rupees as the cash prize. Then I was like, okay, I'm good at this too. And then like, yeah. So this was like, I am a good swimmer. Now I'm good in cycling too. And I'm a good runner. And cycling race gave me the money that I could buy a good cycle to start racing at least. So then the thought came like, again on the dinner table, we were discussing things. So my father mentioned to me that there is this sport called triathlon. Mm-hmm. Until then, I was vaguely aware about triathlon. This is all happening in January 2013, post this cycle race. So then my dad said that I was already running half marathons by that time just for fitness, not really competitive. My running pace was always good. So I was doing these half marathons under 1 hour 45 minutes. So he gave me a suggestion that since you're already training, why don't you try triathlon? Like just as an experience. Yeah, just a thought. So I trained during 2013 and there was a state championship in December 2013 for the national selection team. So I went in that for a triathlon. And the current national champion also happened to be from Gujarat at that time. That point in time in 2013. And she came in the state championship selections as well. And I wasn't expecting a competition with her. I was way down in my thought process at that time. I just looked up to her and I appreciated for all that she had achieved. And I became the state champion.
Oh, that was fast.
Yeah. And then I realized, okay, I have some capabilities. But then we had the national championship 1 month later in Nasik. But we went without any expectations because we were like, we need to study the competition first. And I became the national champion.
How old were you?
I was 19 years old.
Sorry, you're a lady, but I just want the listeners
By heart, I'm always 16. But I don't know, my physical age keeps on increasing every year.
But your endurance and your cardiovascular abilities and your legs and calves, oh my God. They're like top class up there.
And they've put in a lot of efforts.
Yes. I love the fact that you're so consistent in your training and without you realizing you've grown yourself and your abilities. And then an event happens and you're like, oh, damn it. And then you have this sense of recognition like, wow, ye bhi kar sakti hu. I can also do this.
But I think I was lucky enough that there were opportunities on the way, because I feel that there are people who don't get the opportunities that I did. They might have the talent, much better talent than I do, but they don't get the opportunities, or when they get the opportunities, they don't get and grab those opportunities. So I have been lucky in that way.
Were there early influencers, or was there a coach that saw talent in you? How did this go about? Because now looking back in retrospect, it looks like a lot of right steps have been taken.
So I think my parents played a very important role in my entire journey, because they recognized that, I like swimming. They did a bit of research about whom should I get coached under. Even when we used to live in the small town called Ankleshwar, which really did not have the infrastructure, and I'm talking about the early 90s. Or the late 90s. Yeah, I'm not that old.
Just 25.
So they did a lot of research, and they came like the coaches that I should go to. In my 4th grade, I went to Surat, that is a bigger town than Ankleshwar is, in Gujarat itself, which had a lot of good swimmers. And my parents, and in my summer vacation time, I lived there for 2 months along with my grandmother, and I trained under a coach for swimming. So this was unlike of someone doing it in Ankleshwar. Like, they took all the right decisions, and at that time, I was not in the capacity to make decisions for myself. So I think my parents have played a very, very important role in my success. Apart from that, also the coaches that I have been trained under. I have somehow been very lucky to have very good coaches, like throughout. Like, I've changed, I've gone from one coach to another, but all of them have been supportive of the endeavors that I undertook, be it in swimming or running. And when I came to triathlon, in India, it's a very new sport and it's developing. Yeah, people don't even know triathlon. Except maybe in Bangalore, it's pretty popular because a lot of people cycle and run and are trying to get into triathlon. But elsewhere in the country, it's pretty unknown. So when I started out in 2013, my father had been my coach until I actually got a coach in 2017, when we realized that, there was some need for a good coach who understood the sport much better than my father did. So he researched about, the ways we should go about it. There are some schedules available on the internet, but they're very basic. You need to build on them according to your capabilities and according to your needs. So he did that for me. So I have their constant support throughout. So I think that really helped me.
How does it feel like a child? Because this is a prodigy in fancy English terms. And most prodigies have this, wherein they feel they have missed out on the childhood in all the rigorous training, all the structural growing up.
So as an athlete, when I was very young, after I started reaching the national levels in 7th standard, in 8th standard, till 12th, I would say my swimming training was twice a day, almost 3 to 4 hours. And if you include the commute time, it was 5 to 6 hours. And my school was also rigorous. It was almost like 8 hours every day. So this left me with no other time to socialize and stuff. But I was I don't know what term to use, but fortunate that was not the era of mobile phones.
Fortunate?
Yeah, because I didn't have a distraction in the terms of a handy mobile phone on which I would waste time. So I think my school took care of the social life to a very high standards. Like the 8 hours that I used to spend there, I had friends. There. I used to spend with them. I had friends in my swimming circle. I used to spend time with them. There were sacrifices. Totally, there were sacrifices like no parties on the weekends because we were training on the weekends as well. And you need to catch up on sleep. As athletes, we sleep a lot. And we need that sleep, like 8 to 9 hours. I can't do without that. Not only me, like as a family, we have made sacrifices. Since the past 30 13 to 14 years, we don't have a television set at home. There's this particular incident I would like to share that in 2009, Tata Sky was new at that time. So there were door-to-door salesmen who used to come. The two salesmen came to our house and my brother was at the door and they asked him that, we have got this new product and we would like to show it to you or anyone else who is at home. So he told them that we don't have a television set at home. He is talking to one salesperson and he turns back and tells to the other salesperson, "Ye to naya bahana suna." So we haven't had a television set till date. We don't have it at home. Now we have grown so used to it now. It's very funny, but whenever I go to some hotels or resorts,
you don't know how to use one.
I don't know how to use the television set. And all my friends are like, Really? Because when we had the television set, it wasn't the one that the two remote one that we use now. So only one remote, and now it is totally different. So even at hotels, I can't use it because I don't know how to use it.
I'm in the same boat, Pragnya. I think TV was removed from our house in my 9th standard and has never entered. So I have no idea. In fact, I have to... TV is like a showpiece in our house. We have one of the most expensive TVs, but it's just there. It's used as a mirror at times. Oh God. These are just things that those who are overachievers joke about. What else have you let go? But this is a very important topic because it brings the reality of what you're doing.
Okay, so till school it was all okay. The social life was pretty normal. Post school, I have done active college for 2 years. Post that, I quit that college and did a distance learning due to my articleship was clashing with the time that I had for training, as well as going to college was becoming very hectic. In college also it was pretty normal. But once I left college, my social life was not as much there. Now if I see, I have a very limited group of friends, and that is because I am a very friendly person, but all the relationships, whether it's friendship or any kind of relationship, requires time. And if you were trying to give time to something that you are passionate about, they don't obviously all relationship needs time to nurture and develop. So my friends started feeling that I'm ignoring them, ignoring their calls, ignoring their text. So gradually you grow apart.
Mm-hmm.
So I have
because there's no communication.
Yeah, there's a communication gap. I have a very limited group of friends who sort of understand that, I have some priorities in life which are really important to me as an individual. Yeah, and that is one sacrifice that you have to do. Socializing, partying, and all this take a back seat especially in sports.
Same with your startup or your business.
Yeah, it's very similar. I go to CA conferences where I'm invited as a speaker to motivate students to do other things along with pursuing CA, which I did. So it's like taking up a sports career to opening your own practice. As CAs, we have this license to open our own practice post-qualification. So it's very similar that, in the start of practice, you have to put in a lot of effort to get clients, and then you have to put in a lot of efforts to retain them as well. So in sports, it's the same that, at the beginning, you have to put in a lot of efforts, you have to put in a lot of practice, you have to be very disciplined about a lot of things in life, including nutrition. That is another thing that, why I don't have a lot of big friend circle. I can't go out and binge on eating every day.
Oh, God. Talk about it.
So, yeah, it's very similar to practice. You have high uncertainties about whether in future it will sustain or not. Then you have to retain people. In sports, you have to retain your current state and you have to improve on it. Keep on improving on it. You have to practice daily. Even in the practice that you start, you have to be there every day. You can't even...
You have to show up.
Yeah, show up. Even if there are people working under you, you need to monitor them as well. You need to make them feel like, it's a team and you are a part of it. So it takes a lot of sacrifices, but I think when you get that medal in hand or when that national anthem is playing, it's worth it.
What kind of lessons would you draw from all the three sports that helped you in your CA pursuit?
Sports as a whole, it has developed abilities. I've seen so many failures that if I saw one more failure in my CA exams or anything, it wouldn't shake me the way it shakes other people. It's like, okay, you lost a race, you feel bad. It's not like you don't feel bad. You do feel bad when you are attempting to go for the gold and you don't get anything. You feel bad, but that's temporary. Then you'll start looking forward to the next race. So failure become a part of life. It's not like, okay, I failed, so I will stop doing it. I'll feel really bad for days altogether. Okay, I feel bad for a moment. I'll reflect on it, that what went wrong, what did I do wrong, what can be improved, so that in the next race I don't have to fail because of the same reasons at least. But I can still fail. And when you fail, you gradually succeed with time, with efforts that you put in, with dedication. Everything mixed together is what comes out. So when I was doing my CA, I had developed a lot of stamina as well as part of being an athlete. I have stamina, I have strength to take the load and effort that the course requires. So when it came to studying, I could study for long hours. It wasn't a problem for me that I didn't get bored. I didn't get the need to get up and go around. So I could put in efforts when required. And I think that made my CA course very easy. Even the internship part in CA course, we have 3 years of internship that is necessary to pass the CA course.
Right, articleship.
Yeah, articleship. Okay. So even in that, I was pretty good at it. Like my principals, although I was doing sports along with pursuing CA, they never had a complaint because I was very efficient in my work, and whenever they required the hours to be put in, I was there and I could put in those hours, and I think much efficient hours than others, I would say that, because of my stamina. Mm-hmm. So I think CA is a tough course, no doubt on that. But my sports helped me a lot.
The sponsor has products related to feminine hygiene. He has this really cool cardboard-made funnel which women can use and pee anywhere they want.
I've used that.
Yeah?
I have used that.
Yeah, it's called PeeBuddy.
PeeBuddy, yes. Yeah, I ordered it from Amazon.
Because you have such long, I think 2 days worth of out there. How do you manage your hygiene? Do you use PeeBuddy and stuff like that? Has there been an issue?
Yeah, there is a issue in female hygiene in normal course. So I have used PeeBuddy and it is very convenient and easy to use. So I think every female out there should use it because we are more prone to infections than males are.
Right.
And this really helps us. You can stand and use it. You can use it by the roadside as well in India. Mm-hmm. So I think everyone should use it. And as far as female hygiene goes, being an athlete, periods is one limiting factor that I noticed early in my career. You can't swim when you have periods. That's obnoxious. I need to train for those 5 days when I'm on periods, when I have my menstrual cycle. I can't give up on my training.
Because you send back every day you send back
exactly.
2 days.
So I started using tampons as I transited from the sanitary pads. And now I'm using menstrual cup, which I think are not only hygienic but also economical. Because
and
environmental, yes.
Doesn't happen, nothing happens to it.
So I think that every girl should start using menstrual cup because it's so easy. You just have to, you can carry it anywhere in anything. You don't have to be worried that when are my dates due? I have to carry this whole bunch of pads or something. You don't have to get worried about it. The disposal is so easy. You don't have to dispose that. You can just wash it. You just have to boil it. You get those containers in which you can do that. It's so easy to use and it's really, it just takes 1-2 days to get used to it in the initial phase. That's it. And women hygiene is of concern. In India, a lot of women, I'm not sure about the stats though, a lot of women die because of infection and because of menstrual hygiene not being maintained. So it's very important that female hygiene is maintained. Now the scenario is changing a bit with the pay and use toilets. They are a bit cleaner than they were earlier when they were no pay and no use. So now the things are increasing, but the frequency of the pay and use toilets are very low. So when I go for a run, suppose on the road, and I want to go to the washroom, as a girl, I can't even go by the roadside. So it's very difficult at times, and I think PeeBuddy kind of things help in that. Because when I'm standing and peeing, I don't think a lot of people will also notice because I have short hairs. That helps.
She gets away.
I think that is something that is required, but I think gradually it'll come, the washrooms across the roads. But
What
it is still
else
not there.
stops women from taking up sports like these, though? Because this isn't just the concern. There must be so many more things.
Women in general are physically not, like, this is biological, that you're physically not as capable as men are. And plus the Indian society, sorts of, after you've reached a certain age, after maybe you've graduated from the school, a lot of girls don't go into sports.
They back out.
Yeah,
These
they
are
back
national
out.
athletes.
Yeah, I have had friends who were really exceptional when they were doing what they were doing until school in sports. But post-school, they just did not continue. And I don't know why, but they just did not. And these were people whom we thought that one day we would see at the Olympics. So it's a sad reality, but it exists in our society. A lot of people are not supportive of sportswomen pursuing sports after a certain age. When they are young, maybe they are very supportive of the fact that, sports hai, extracurricular activities hai, it'll look good, like, sportsmanship spirit. Everyone talks about it, but no one wants to get into it and get that. Everyone talks that you should have sportsmanship spirit, sports teaches you this. But once after high school, you don't need that award. It's only for boys. And one more discriminatory factor that I have seen over time in my sport is that in many competitions, the prize money for male are higher than that for female. And the reason,
higher are these?
So if hypothetically, if this is a 50-kilometer of cycle race that I'm talking about, first male competitor, like the first winner, will get 75,000 and the first female will get 50,000. That's a very huge gap. And when you confront the organizers, they say that this is because the women participation is lower than men.
So it doesn't justify the...
No, so
cash
but
prize.
they
Wow.
don't understand that, as a girl, first you have to convince yourself that, okay, you need to participate in this race and you can do good. Then you need to convince your parents to let you go and participate in that. And then you have to fight the society and travel to that race location almost every time alone, and still that society will judge you that, okay, so I'll tell you about this 2015 accident I had. That was in Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad is a cosmopolitan city and it's a big city according to Indian standards. I had this accident on the ring road where a car hit me and I was obviously the one bleeding. The car did not bleed.
Just you with the SUV.
Yes.
Oh, God.
So I was cycling on the ring road of Ahmedabad and I was cycling at a pace of 32 to 33 kilometers per hour, which is very high for a cycle. And if we want to brake, it has to be at least, some distance before we can completely stop. So this car comes along, overtakes me and stops suddenly in front of me. And I crash into it. I went under the car. And after I could get up, I always carry my phone when I'm on training alone. So I called up my dad and it was not really far from my house, about 4 to 5 kilometers. So he reached within 10-15 minutes. And until he reached, there was no gathering of crowd. So he came and he parked his car in such a way that the other car could not flee the place. Then that is when the crowd saw that, there was some commotion and people started coming. And they started making accusations on me. I was the one bleeding here. And in cycling, what happens is, for the aerodynamic purpose, you have to wear really tight clothes so that the air does not go inside your, the attire and creates an air drag. Yeah. So I was wearing those cycling clothes. I was on cycling practice. They started making comments like, अमीर बाप की लड़की होगी, इतनी बिगड़ी है, इतने छोटे कपड़े पहने, इतने टाइट कपड़े पहने, इतना ही है तो अपने बंगले के आजू बाजू जाके साइकिलिंग करे. They didn't know me. They didn't know my parents. They didn't know anything about me. But they just gathered there and started making these comments. I'm sure if it was a guy, he didn't have to face or go through this. And this is 2015, not long back. So if this is the kind of mentality that our society still has, it's a sad reality, but it does exist.
I need to get you ice cream after this.
I have a lot of stories.
Go ahead.
And discriminatory prize money, and like when you ask the organizers, they're like, lower participation, we can't do anything, and sponsors have told us to keep it this way. They don't clearly understand what goes on. Yeah.
Let's talk about money, because we are at Money Matters. How have your financial support? Because I know that you've been supporting yourself by your own efforts so far.
Sports nowadays has a good money, let me tell you. That you can participate in competitions and win good amount of money despite the price discrimination. But my training costs are much higher than what I earn. And if I am looking at the 2024 Olympics as my target, I require the finances need to be much more, much greater.
Because the women listening to it and the men listening to it may take this sport up. So what does it cost to maintain a sport like this as a part of your life?
So there is a different part. Like if you're pursuing it as an amateur, if you're pursuing it as a professional, these are two different things. In triathlon, what happens is cycle is a very major cost. The equipment itself is very costly. So if you go for a decent normal road bike, the starter level bike also, it would cost you anywhere around 50 to 80,000, just the bike. That is the initial cycles. And then the technology is improving drastically in the sports arena. So every year there is something new, something that will make you go 30 seconds or 1 minute faster. For an amateur athlete, that doesn't matter. But as a professional, it really matters to me a lot. So I need to invest in those. And
every half a minute counts.
Exactly. I think every second counts when you reach those levels. In equipment, cycle is one part of it. Then a lot of electronic data has come into the play of sports. So for instance, you need a heart rate belt to monitor your heart rate while running, while cycling, while swimming, to know that what kind of training are you doing, which level are you pushing your body to. For those heart rates to synchronize, you need a watch which captures the heart rate. Then there are now, the technology has improved to power meters. So how many watts are you generating when you're pedaling one pedal of the cycle? Or how many watts are you generating when you are putting your 1 feet when you are running? So these are all electronic data that have come into play. These also require investment. And since these are technologies which have just come out, they're expensive. Over time, they will become cheaper. But right now, they have very, very expensive. Like I would give you an instance, like my power meter which I have on cycle, it's just 2 pedals on which I put my shoes and cycle. They cost $1,000. Only 2 pedals that I have on my cycle.
And what difference makes, so I can rationalize this in my head?
Both the pedals have a technology inside that calibrates the amount of power that I'm pushing the pedal with in one stroke. Yeah. So you can imagine the amount and the volume of the money that goes into this. Apart from this, being a professional, as triathlon is a nascent sport in India, the required infrastructure as well as support in terms of coaching, nutrition, physiotherapy is not available in India at the moment. In the future, it might be. So as a professional, if I am looking at the world scenario, I need to go and train under world-class coaches who can get me to that timings, to that, and give me that kind of infrastructure and group to train with. I need to go international. I need to stay there. I need to train with them. And by international, I mean a place in Europe, Australia, or the US. So the staying cost, the coaching cost, the food, everything is not as good as it is in India. So the costs are pretty high. So all this requires, when estimated, about 4 million rupees per annum for the next 4 to 5 years. This will ensure that, the first Indian to go to the Olympics in 2024.
That's about 40 lakhs. every year.
On
That
an
just to
estimate.
get by.
Yeah.
What hacks have you been using to get by so far?
So I self-finance myself. There are possibilities that, you can cut short this part. You don't need this. How do you save money? Like I travel economy. I look up the flights earlier so that I can get a better rate. I don't book on the last moment. Then I stay with a group of people. I have a shared apartment. Then I try to, even in the equipment, I don't have the best world-class equipment right now. I had to trade it off somewhere. Though my cycle costs a lot of money, but it's not the best in the market. There are better things. There are better technologies which have come. I still have to go with the older one because I can't really afford it on my own until and unless some people support me. And by support, I mean any kind of support, just not financial. There are a lot of things other than financial support as well that people can offer. Okay, so I had this amazing opportunity to listen to Vishwanathan Anand, the world chess icon. So he had visited my school and he was telling us about the psychology that plays in chess. So in the World Championship, there are only 2 people competing against them for the World Champion title in chess. So how the process works is there's a defending champion. Like suppose if you're talking about 2010. So there's a defending champion of 2009 and there is a challenger. The challenger is selected through a process that they have in which the top players are invited and they are competing against each other to become the challenger to the world champion. Okay, so now in the world championship, there are only 2 people playing each other. They have to play for 6-7 matches and that decides like who won the maximum number of matches. So he was telling this about the world championship. He was the challenger and there was this Garry Kasparov who was a chess world champion. He told us that how mind games used to work when they were playing chess. So in chess, what happens is they are sitting across the table and there's a chessboard in between. And when one moves, they start the clock and then the other has time to think about the move. And this might take some minutes. So Garry Kasparov, when he was certain that he was not in a good position over the chessboard, he would walk out of the room. And they are allowed to do that. He used to walk out of the room while Vishwanathan Anand was on the chessboard thinking about what he would play next and slam the door real hard so that Vishwanathan Anand got distracted. So this is what Vishwanathan Anand said, that you need to be really calm and these things will happen and this is not something that is not allowed. So that is why he was talking about various things that he does along with playing chess. Like he goes for a jog, he keeps a team around him who constantly motivates him, keeps him fit and everything. How nutrition is also very important even though chess is a mental game. So he was talking about all this and where he also mentioned this incident. And so psychologically in every sport, we think that it's only the physical body that is working towards it. No, a large part of the entire achievement is also mental. You need a balance between both the things. If you're physically very strong but mentally very weak or mentally distracted, you're not going to get that gold medal. You need a balance between both, a healthy balance.
How do you create that? Because you're one of those kinds of self-figured a lot of things.
No, I've always had that support group behind me. Be it with a very small support group or a large support group, doesn't really matter. The support group has to work for your benefit. So the mental and the physical balance. Mentally, I think I'm pretty strong. I'm a very optimistic person. In general course of life, let alone be it my sport that I'm very passionate about. So I'm very optimistic about everything in that. But there are moments when you lose, you feel bad. It's normal, it's human. I am a human after all. So I feel bad. But over time, I've learned that losing is not something that is bad.
So how can they reach out to you if they want to?
So I have a Facebook page that is Pragnya Mohan and an Instagram page that is Pragnyamohan. So they can send a message to that account. Or I have an email ID that goes pragnyamohan@gmail.com. Primarily, that is how they can reach out.
All the links and ways to reach out to her are in the show description. What's the impact that you seek to make?
As we saw that when Deepa Karmakar became the first gymnast from India to represent in the Olympics, it got her a lot of focus on gymnastics as a sport. So as the prime mover, I see that if I can go to some good level like being a participant at the Olympics, it could get that momentum for triathlon as well. So that is the bigger picture that I'm looking from. Apart from that, as an individual, I really like the sport. I'm very passionate about it. So that is the reason that in spite of being a qualified chartered accountant where I can earn good amount of money by doing a job or starting a practice, I have chosen not to do that and instead pursue my passion, which is for triathlon, and do something that will benefit the country as a whole and specifically my sport.
The conversation was wishing you all the kind of support that you require, the mentorship, the sponsorship, the family support that you need to go ahead and show the world what India is capable at in the Olympics of 2024 and more. On that note, to all of you, go and make some galata. She is full of drama too.
Oh, really?
Look, guys. Period. Oh, really? The arched eyebrow. Today, she's the only Indian triathlete who's represented India in the World Cups, which happened previous year. No?
In May 2019.
You know what?
In Madrid.
Wow, I'm so off today.